have our first guest of this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are. He is from Tivy High School. He put Texas A&M on the map. He is the most polarizing collegiate athlete to ever step foot in sports history. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Johnny Manziel. Yes, Johnny, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Thank you very much for being. You are here today as a partner with Sling TV to promote its newest Day Pass, Weekend Pass, and Week Pass, launching this week just in time for the college football season and NFL. Tell me about your partnership with Sling TV.
Listen, it's that time of the year again. All the boring sports and all the little lull throughout the season. It's college football season. We're back. People want to watch games. I want to watch the SEC. So if we're talking about getting instant access instead of having all these subscriptions and all this stuff that just runs up your bills, everything, Sling TV. You're going to want to go watch a game for the day, maybe the weekend, the week, whatever you want. Starts at $4.99. How easy is it to just go click, go watch SEC football, and not have to worry about it coming back to bite you in the long run?
Love it. And how's your Aggies going to do this year?
Feeling good about my Aggies this year, to be honest. Last year, obviously towards the end of the season, I don't think it went exactly the way we wanted it to. Showed some promise. One of those seasons where you get off to a decent start, you're sitting there, 5-2, 6-2, and then you have a stumble on the way home. But I think a full offseason for Marcel Reed will be really good. I think Elko in his second year will be more prepared for what the SEC is a gauntlet. It's tough. You're going to beat up on each other, but, some tough tests throughout the season. Notre Dame, another tough test, but I'm feeling like they're up for the challenge and it looks good so far.
Can they beat Texas?
And that's the question.
Let's go.
Obviously, last year was, being at that game and the rivalry finally coming back. In 2011, when I was redshirting, I got to be a part of the last heartbreak, Justin Tucker field goal to knock us off for the last one. Obviously, throughout my time there in the past years, didn't get to have that game, but that is the game that's circled on the schedule right now as they're going through training camp. So prepare, boys, because, they're one up on us coming back into the rivalry.
Do you see any collegiate athletes right now that kind of resemble a Johnny Manziel in the way you used to play in college?
There's some guys who run around a little bit. I don't see anybody out there that's necessarily doing the same type of off-the-cuff, crazy things that I was doing, but there are a lot of good talent at the quarterback position. A guy that I've really talked to and got to know a little bit throughout this last year, Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. The kid is an absolute stud. Got a heart of gold, really solid kid. I got a chance to hop on a call with him last year and congratulate him for the Alabama win. So I think with him at the helm at Vanderbilt, the guy plays, if anybody in the country plays as similar to me as I've seen.
Do you get to mentor a lot of collegiate athletes? Do a lot of them come to you and say, hey, do you have any advice? And what kind of advice do you give to them?
I always have, people come into my DMs every now and then. I was in Miami a couple weeks ago and ran into Carson Beck and had a nice talk with him for a little bit. Me and Marcel Reed spoke on the phone last week and talked about some stuff. So listen, for the guys who, it is a tough world in college football right now, right? Dealing with, money and fame and just kind of everything that comes with it. And it is very easy to let some of those things overtake what the main thing is, right? So as much as this money that you're making in college is amazing, life-changing, really, the end goal is the second contract in the NFL and to get to the next show and the next stage. So my DMs are always open and I'm always willing to give anybody advice for anybody that wants to reach out.
Do you wish a 19-year-old Johnny Manziel had someone like you to talk to and kind of give advice on how to handle fame?
I don't know if a 19-year-old Johnny Manziel would have listened to anybody.
Nobody? I was always wondering that because, Tivy High School is known for its military, esque type of training. and then you go to Texas A&M, and it felt like, because I watched your documentary Untold on Netflix, which anyone that hasn't seen it, it's amazing. It's a great kind of story of what your story truly was. And, you know, going to Texas A&M, it kind of feels like it let you do whatever you wanted, right? So do you feel like you needed a kind of military style, or do you feel like no matter what kind of style was in college, you weren't listening?
I mean, I was just at such a point where like just was on such a crazy high of a roller coaster ride that, you know, I really don't think I would have. You know, I was throughout that period of time, especially when I was going through the NCAA investigation stuff. You know, LeBron was on my phone every single day,
What
giving
was
me
LeBron
advice,
telling you?
talking to me, and you know, just like keep your head up. You know, fight through this. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes through it, and a lot of stuff that you're going to read, that you're going to see, but continue to try and keep the main thing, and just continue to work on your craft and try and get better and go have another great season. But you know, it was really tough because you know, you have all the access in the world. Nobody says no to you. You get to do whatever you want. And you know, for me, you know, it was something that I just loved being in. You know, I loved it.
What do you think the Johnny Manziel era would be like if there was NIL deals back then and there was a transfer portal back then?
Yeah, I would have probably walked into the athletic building every day in a Rolls Royce Ghost with a fur coat and a mink hat on. I would have taken the Joe Namath route for sure.
So is it a good thing that you didn't have NIL back then, or like how do you feel about the NIL right now? Do you feel it's a bad thing or a good thing? Because you were kind of a person that wanted that to happen, right?
Yeah, no, I think for me, the way I think about it now, even though it is a little bit skewed and a little bit out of whack, it is in the players' favor right now. And schools are having to adjust, and conferences and everything that's going on. It is a little wacky. But at the end of the day, you know, to have kids that come through your school that move the needle, that bring in a ton of value and money and everything that comes along with it, they deserve to be compensated. So the thing that's kind of really tough is, like, for me during our time, we couldn't just hop in a transfer portal and end up somewhere in the spring. We couldn't just bounce and go somewhere else or get an offer for somebody. It was a full year you have to sit out. So the opportunity that these kids are getting is, you know, amazing. But also something that it's doing is, you know, if you're a high school recruit, a 2-star, a 3-star, you know, there are so many people in the transfer portal that there's not as many guys getting recruited out of high school because, you know, why wouldn't you go get somebody from the transfer portal who's already been in the swing of things and knows how to handle themselves and go to class? Like, it's a lot more difficult teaching a high school kid that than somebody who's already been in another program.
Do you feel like the NFL or college can better prepare kids going into the NFL, or do you feel like it's better now than it was back in your day, or do you feel like there's still some steps that need to be taken to get a collegiate player ready for the NFL and what it brings?
I think it comes down to it's school dependent, right? Like, I think it comes down to the effort that the athletic departments are putting into making sure guys know about finances. Like, we would go into a rookie symposium and learn about, hey, you make $1 million, you're with your agent and your taxes and everything, you're really going to see X amount. Now, you can't have kids in college that are making $1 million a year and not pay their taxes and have the IRS coming after them and everything. So you would hope, you know, an athletic department is sitting these kids down and really showing them that, you know, if you make 100 grand, you don't get 100 grand. You know, there's other things that come along with it. And, you know, for them, just trying to teach them and educate them, it should be better, you know, even though it is really hard to do that for 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
I mean, I don't know if the kids today are putting their 100 grand underneath their beds like you used to do when you would do autograph signings and stuff like that. Do you think that winning the Heisman as a freshman changed your life and changed your career? And if you didn't win the Heisman, like say Manti Te'o won, do you think that would have changed your career and your trajectory?
I think 100% it would have. I think that trophy and breaking down that barrier of being the first freshman to win the Heisman, you know, changed my life forever. Something that throughout the history was really taboo at one point in time, that a freshman couldn't win it. And to finally, knock that barrier down and then see the next year Jameis come in and win it as a redshirt freshman as well. It really just changed the game for that fraternity and for that award. And, it changed my life forever. I'm forever, able to go to autograph signings or go to the award show in December and, sign a Heisman helmet along with the rest of the legends there. And it's, it is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in my life, and something for me that I always dreamt about and got a chance to actually live a dream.
Talk to me about the popularity of Johnny Manziel, Money Manziel, Johnny Football. I mean, at your pro day, like, you had a former president, like George Bush and Barbara Bush were at your pro day. I mean, what was that like? Well, I mean, you were hanging out with Drake, LeBron, like all these amazing people, and you're still in college and still going to school. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable going through the pro day and being probably 10 minutes into the workout, and then you see the garage door kind of lift on the other end of the stadium, and you see President Bush on his golf cart just driving through, not a care in the world. I got to go sit down with him the night before and have a really cool dinner and talk and sit and just, being from Texas.
Wait, what did you talk about with George Bush?
I got to bring my mom and my dad and stuff. I think we just, we talked a lot about just Texas. We talked about what a great state it is, about Aggie football, about life. I think, it's a memory that me and my family, have framed in our house forever. I think it meant a lot to us at that time, and was really, really surreal, when you're in college and they're like, hey, this is going to happen. And I was like, wow, I get to bring my mom, my dad, my sister and do this and have this whole experience. Like, come on, amazing.
After the pro day, you're at the draft. Did you think Dallas was coming for you? Were you hoping for it?
I remember as it was going on, like, there was always such a hope, because we never really talked to them much throughout the draft. But I had been, from my time when I was A&M, been in Jerry's suite a couple times. I went to the Final Four that was there and sat in the suite. We always had great talks, always seemed to have a good relationship. So when the pick popped up, I'm sitting there crossing my fingers, hoping that would be the case. Ultimately for them, it worked out because Zach Martin was an unbelievable pick. And I would say still probably even to this day, I'm a fan of players in the NFL, like Mike Evans, my guy. There's quarterbacks that I love to watch. But, if there's a team that like really has like a place in my heart that I like, it's the boys.
Yeah. So you're in the suite with Jerry. Did you ever feel like he was picking your brain, trying to see if you were the quarterback of his future? Or was it more just small talk, handshake, smile, take a picture, see you bye?
I think it was more just small talk and handshakes and hanging out, and me probably trying to go in there and sneak a margarita or something.
Nice. And so you're at the draft and you were falling, and then the Cleveland Browns step up and take you. What's that feeling like? And by the way, I also heard that did you text like the offensive coordinator from the Browns and be like, come get me, or something along those lines? Did I hear this right?
He texted me a little bit, probably maybe after like pick 18 or something. It was like, yo,
this is Kyle, right?
This was Dow Loggins. This was Dow Loggins.
Okay.
He was our quarterback coach. He was like, be patient. We think we're going to come up and get you. The really interesting thing was going into the draft, we felt like our floor was 23. Even though we didn't have any meetings with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think Andy Reid really liked me, and that's where I would have gone had the Browns not traded up one spot ahead.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that one. Wow. So you get drafted to Cleveland. What's the immediate thought? You're happy, or you're like, oh, God, it's Cleveland?
No.
Or I'm the guy that can change the trajectory of the quarterbacks.
I think my immediate reaction was like, oh, my gosh, like I'm a 5'11" quarterback who played 2 years in college, and I just got drafted in the first round. Like, wow.
That was it? Because the Johnny Manziel that I watched on TV, I would think he would be like, yeah, of course I'm going to the Cleveland, and I'm going to be that guy that changes the trajectory. I'm going to do it all. So in the back of your head, you're more like, oh my God, I've only played 2 years. Like, what is going on here?
I mean, when I went to college, I just wanted to get on the field and play college football. And then you look up, like, 12 months later and you're on a stage in New York and you win a Heisman, and then, you go back for a second season and you play better than you did the year before. And it's like, wow, I didn't come into this thinking that the NFL was actually going to be a reality. And then, you turn your papers in later in the year and you get a first, second round grade coming back. So it's like, wow, I really have the opportunity to be able to do it. And then when Cleveland happened, I didn't know anything about Cleveland. I knew going into the draft that they had two picks. So statistically, a team having two picks, there's a chance that they need a quarterback. There's a chance that I'm going to end up here. And then when I went to Berea for the first time the next day after the draft, I got to meet Ray Farmer and Jimmy Haslam and Mike Pettin and stuff, and just really taking a look at the roster at the time. I felt a lot of confidence with the pieces that we had, that I would be able to go in and be able to be a good fit for the organization. And ultimately, that wasn't the case.
When did you realize that the NFL was different than college? Because obviously, I imagine I don't know this because I'm not you, and I imagine you'll parlay the information to us, but you're going in, you're dominating college. Like, no one can touch you. You're just tremendous. You're polarizing. Everyone wants a piece of Money Manziel. And then you go to the Cleveland Browns and you're like, I imagine if I'm you, I would probably be like, yeah, I'm going to do the same exact thing in college. And then you get to the NFL and you're like, wait, it's a job. It's not just playing on a football field anymore. When was that realization for you?
I think probably through the first training camp, as we got out there and they started introducing some defenses. The great thing about Texas A&M and Cliff Kingsbury's offense and the offense that we ran there, it was more predicated on speed, fast, getting defenses uncomfortable. But I wouldn't say we were super dialed in to the X's and O's of the game, right? Maybe you're looking at one high, two high, or if a linebacker's tucked in the box to make a switch and throw a bubble and like get the ball on the perimeter and play fast. When you get to the NFL and you're really starting to learn defenses, I felt overwhelmed. I felt swamped. Like I didn't learn enough that I needed to in college to be prepared for the NFL. And I remember being in practice, and it was probably maybe 5 days into training camp, and the defense started putting in an 8 DB package where there's like 8 defensive backs walking around everywhere, and there's only 3 down linemen. You can't tell who's a down lineman or who to block, and there's just little guys all over the field. And I just remember walking off the practice field that day being like, that sucked. That was the day that was like, I got absolutely put in a blender, and just like, you're like, this is what they do, right? You're going to see 3 down sets, 4 down sets. You're going to have guys walking around. It's not always going to be cut and dry and 4 down, 3 linebackers and everything looking perfect like it did a lot in college.
Do you have any regrets?
I sit here today with like just a lot of regret with how I handled a lot of things. I think I took a lot of my like similar attitude and like antics with me. I think I got really comfortable in being in a position my first year there of being the backup and really not having a lot of responsibilities. I think I never truly embraced Cleveland. I think I went into it with a negative mindset from the get-go and never really fully put my heart around it and gave it a chance. Um, Being in Texas my whole life and then going there was just a little bit of a shell shock for me. And, look, a lot of people throughout that time supported me, bought jerseys, the city embraced me, they loved me. There was a lot of hope that I was going to be able to go there and make a difference for a franchise that's been longing for that, right? But um, my effort and my determination and time that I could have put into the quarterback position is something that for the rest of my life will always haunt me. That I had the ability to do more and I didn't, because my head and my mind and things were in other places that weren't focused on, what I was truly, truly gifted at.
Well, Well, man, thank you so much for being here. I was one of those guys, by the way. I loved watching you in college. I even loved watching you at the draft. I remember where I was when you got drafted. I was out of my seat. I was celebrating, high-fiving everyone every time I've met you, and we've had conversations. You've always been amazing, and I love the person that you're becoming and all the lessons that you have learned. And I love the fact that you are talking to collegiate players and getting them ready to handle the stuff that you had to go through, because you didn't really have anyone that knew what you went through, because you're a one of a kind. So thank you very much.
It was a one of a kind situation. I've always been a fan of you as well, my friend. You're one of the great ones. So I appreciate you guys having me on today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Much love.
Thanks, man.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.